Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and with me is Craig Rupp of Savanto. We're here in their research lab in Nevada, Iowa, and we're going to talk autonomous farming, autonomous tractors. Welcome, Craig. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
And thank you, Sarah, for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a player in this autonomous market. What was kind of that aha, I need to do this moment?
So I have kind of an eclectic background. I grew up on a farm, and then I spent probably 10 years of my career automating manufacturing lines all throughout the world. And given that I have this ag background and this automation, I brought the two together and started this company.
And you started it 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago?
2018.
2018. Okay.
Yep.
Very good. And you take a bit of a different approach to autonomy, right? What do they call that? Swarm
Yes.
autonomy. Tell us, what does that mean, and how does that compare to some of the other autonomous companies that are out there in this space?
So the one thing we did, we're first and foremost, we're trying to, solve the labor problem in agriculture. The second thing we're trying to do is solve the capital expense issue. And what our mindset is, autonomy is going to increase time, and horsepower equals work divided by time. So for the given amount of work, time and horsepower are inversely proportional. So you increase time, you decrease horsepower. So we're going with smaller tractors and working them longer hours overnight in a lot of cases.
And it makes them you're more able to transport them as well, right? To
That's
various farms and to
That's
use
right.
it more as a service, would you say?
More of a service. So all our tractors, we pull them behind 3/4 ton pickups. And at a drop of a hat, we can load them on a trailer and get them from point A to point B. No CDL. That was one of the tenets or principles that we started, is try to avoid using trucks, semis.
So can your tractors go all night long, or is there a point when you're like, we have to stop because the ground isn't conducive, or how does that work?
So we've ran systems 48 hours nonstop, multiple systems cultivating in Nebraska. And so 24 hours is fairly simple for us.
What about the marketplace? Where is the marketplace in all of this? Are there a lot of new adopters who are like, yeah, let's do this? Is there a lot of hesitancy, or is it going, where are we at?
Okay. Every farmer we talk to, labor is a problem, and they don't have a solution for it. And so you talk to any farmer, and you tell them that, we're trying to solve your labor problem. Oh, by the way, we're trying to reduce your capital expenses. They always say, you have my undivided attention. Tell me.
So you think they're going to be fairly accepting then of the autonomy, or they are?
I think they
jumping
are
on board with it.
By nature, I guess, my father was a farmer, and every farmer you meet, they're fairly progressive in terms of they're more than willing to adopt new technologies.
What about certain types of farmers? Are larger farmers more apt to go the autonomous route as opposed to some of the smaller ones in terms of the adoption curve? Are you seeing any difference there?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
And autonomy is not a one-size-fits-all either, unlike the hats in agriculture. There's the smaller farmers, they have a labor problem, and they want to reduce capital expenses. Large farmers as well.
So we're talking, mostly the field work here that we've been discussing, but you have tractors out there doing other things too, right? You've got them mowing and chopping, just a variety of whatever implement can go behind it is something that can be autonomized.
Yeah, what's interesting is the tractor is kind of the Swiss Army knife in agriculture. They're used for a lot more than just doing field operations, or let's say, tilling or planting. They're also used for mowing, and right now we're working really close with the Air Force mowing their airfields.
So are there other applications? I mean, if we talk about that, just, the tractor being the utility knife, I mean, you probably could also use one, say, in a feedlot, right? To run your your feed cart,
Yeah.
and to do those types of things, perhaps even in a feed facility where you're doing some loading or something. We have a lot of robots already that are in feed facilities that are replacing labor in terms of stacking pallets. So
Absolutely.
some of those things might just be a natural progression.
Absolutely. We get hounded all the time by cattle producers that they want an autonomous method of feeding their cattle. And, we get a lot of opportunities that come in the door with farmers that want help with that.
And something like that might be fairly easy because it's the same route
It is.
every day, as opposed to maybe going to different fields and having to kind of recalibrate things.
Absolutely. And it's very mundane and repetitive. And that's where autonomy really plays a role.
What about horsepower or tractor size? I know there's a big tractor just outside the door here that I just caught a glimpse of, and then we've got some more this size. What are you seeing? I know you mentioned, being able to haul them, but you're also working in some of these larger pieces of equipment as well, right?
Yes, we are. If I go back, I think we peaked in horsepower, and I think it's going to come down.
Are you saying overall or with the autonomy?
I think overall, I think autonomy is going to bring us in the other direction. Once you get right around 150 horsepower, then it's a very capable tractor. I mean, when you get down to 60 and 90 horsepower, if you're trying to rip or do any significant tillage depth wise, you need about 150 horsepower minimum. But that's not to say I have a 60 horsepower tractor that we planted 750 acres with it in one growing season for 60 horsepower little Kubota tractor.
That's putting on some miles.
It is. The poor thing.
The poor thing.
It did. It worked its tail off.
So there's a lot of players in this market.
Yes.
Is that a good thing, or that you think it's going to see a lot of consolidation over the coming years? Where do you see the market in, say, 3-5 years?
I think you're going to see a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of companies out there doing something different. We're focused solely on row crop agriculture. There are, a lot of companies, startups in the West Coast, and they're doing, vineyards and vegetables. And then there's just different types of activities above and beyond just field operations. Picking fruit is popular. Doing applications in vineyards is really popular there on the West Coast. But we're Midwest, row crop, corn, soybeans. That's my team is focused on that.
What about on global perspective? Is autonomy, is the U.S. ahead of other countries? Are other countries ahead of where we're at here in the U.S.? And what is that kind of transfer of technology around the world? Is there a lot of that goes on?
Yeah, it's kind of all these startups. It's really, love the one you're with, right? And if you look at the startups in the U.S. here, they're all geared toward a lot of the problems and, I guess, constraints the U.S. has. You go over to England, and they're taking a different approach, smaller, even smaller than us. Just because the fields aren't as large, and then you go down. There's a lot going on in Australia as well, and they're usually larger rigs as well.
So we have a viewer who noted a few things. What about like safety and risk associated with tractors driving themselves? How do you deal with that? What is kind of the, what's the approach? I know you monitor, but
we
have safety things in place, but tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have safety systems in place, in particular perception systems. So if something comes within, range of the tractor, we shut down. And we stop it, and then and then it's not moving. But I look at it this way. 2 weeks ago, I was walking. I was in San Francisco, walking downtown, and you see an autonomous car whiz by, and they have a much bigger problem than we do. But they're in
a whole different environment.
They're
when
in
it
a whole
comes
different
to people
environment.
and cars and unpredictability of all those things. When you're out in the field, you're I mean, you know, the end of the field, the curves, the
Yes.
everything that goes on.
Yeah, and we closely monitor, where we're at, where we're going, what's ahead of us. We monitor all sorts of aspects of the tractor to make sure it's healthy. And then we developed a lot of sensoring for the implement to make sure that's operating as required.
And you've got some kind of sensor then if something comes in front of it, right? It just stops.
Absolutely.
And sends notification that if
Yep.
there's some impediment that's
All our
there.
tractors have a Slack channel, and they communicate over Slack channel.
Your
Slack
tractors have a
channels.
Slack channel.
They most certainly do.
It's cool. So then you can go in and see what's going on. Do you have like cameras if there's something so you can tell what's going on? Okay.
Absolutely. If we ever stop, we have images of both the front and the rear of the tractor. Hey, why did we pause? There was an error detected on the tractor, or if we have a GPS navigation, we lost GPS, we pause. If we lose RTK,
And
we
I think we're
pause.
probably seeing some of that right here, aren't we, on the screen? It's showing the mapping and what's going on with the mowing.
Yeah, that
So-
mower right there was, that's the Air Force. It's actually crossing a simulated runway here at the lab, your research lab.
Hey, you really wouldn't want to take out an Air Force jet, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
What about insurance? This a viewer had asked about insurance. Does it take any kind of insurance on the farmer's part if they go autonomous?
So right now we are insured, both inland marine and general liability. And it is, you do have to, we went out and all our systems are insured for that.
But does the farmer need to be that insured as well, or is it mostly would come from you're providing the insurance?
I provide the insurance when we do a field operation.
Very good. What else should we know about going autonomous? And considerations?
It is. It's fascinating just watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often when we're out in the field, you always see brake lights come on, people stop, pull out their cameras. We've multiple times we've been called by the police and they've shown up. There's some good audio recordings of that. But it is fascinating and interesting to watch. And what I get a kick out of, a lot of times we're working with these 80-year-old farmers and they say, I never thought I would see this in my lifetime.
So which brings
I
up
get a kick out of
a
that.
point with the some of the initial autonomous tractors we saw were total, and some of them still are. They're just units that drive themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't ever like override it in terms of it's not a tractor where if you needed to go back and use it as a tractor, you're taking
Yeah.
existing equipment and putting the equipment on it, but you're not really taking the tractor part of it out.
Yeah.
It's not just this piece of equipment that's going down like a whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
It's independent unit.
yeah.
Is there advantage over that, or do you
Yeah.
find farmers want that? That gives them kind of a comfort because I still know I have my tractor. Right?
Well, there's a number of reasons why we went down that path. Instead of, we always call them the Zambonis. They look like Zambonis.
Okay, that's good. I couldn't think of the term. That's it. Yeah.
Number one, even though our company is solely focused on autonomy, I don't believe autonomy is an all or nothing proposition. You have cruise control in your car. You don't use cruise control to back it out of your garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
No farmer jumps in his tractor and turns on auto steer to drive it to the fuel tank, right? So tractors, again, they're the Swiss Army knife of agriculture. And our goal is to reuse that capital as much as we possibly can. So you got a tractor, go ahead and push snow with it in the winter. All the tractors are, they still have seats and steering wheels. And I believe the future, they'll still have seats and steering wheels because people want to use them as a normal tractor. And the other thing too, I wanted to, a lot of these manufacturers, they're really good at making tractors and they're dependable. Regardless of what brand you have, for the most part, they're very dependable. They're supported. You can get parts for them, and that's why we're off-the-shelf tractors.
Yeah, we're sitting here in front of a orange Kubota, but you could do any tractor, right?
Absolutely.
You could make it run on its own.
Absolutely.
Very good. All right, Craig Rupp of Sabanto, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today, and thank you all for joining us as well. Until next time, for Feedstuffs 365, I'm Sarah Muirhead.